Well, this week, the Supreme Court ruled 7-2 in favor of Jack Phillips, the owner of Masterpiece Cakeshop. He was sued for discrimination, nearly driven out of business by the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. And why? Because he declined to design a same-sex wedding cake because it conflicted with his Christian beliefs on marriage. Now, some called this week's decision a victory for religious freedom. Others felt the court ruled so narrowly that it left the First Amendment religious freedom rights unprotected. Before the show tonight, I had an opportunity to visit with Michael Ferris, CEO of the Alliance Defending Freedom, the group that won the ruling for Jack Phillips, and he talked about the Supreme Court's decision and its implications. Michael, tell us what this decision means for the broader issue of religious liberty.
Well, Mike, the Supreme Court's decision says that bias and discrimination against religious people, in this case against a conservative Christian, will no longer be tolerated in the way that it was in Colorado. The clear discriminatory purpose of the Commission's actions and the very hateful things they said to Jack Phillips along the way are signs of religious discrimination. The Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. That's a good sign for this country.
There was a lot of reaction, and a lot of it came from the media that said that this was a very narrow decision. Not the vote, it was 7-2, but they kept trying to say this didn't really mean that much.
Well, the case raised two questions. One was about religious freedom, and the other is about free speech. And the court decided not to decide the free speech case at this time because it could arise in a variety of contexts beyond the religious freedom context. And the court simply said, we're only going to decide the religious freedom question today on the facts that are before us, which is actually a conservative way of judicial action, and what the court really should be doing on a routine basis. And so they said that the religious bias that was present here, both in the fact that the mean and derogatory things that the Commission said to Jack Phillips, but additionally the fact that they treated his case differently than cases where cakes were on the opposite viewpoint, that those were indicators of religious bias. They also said that religious business people don't have to keep their faith only in church on Sunday, that you have a right to bring your religion into the marketplace and expect to be treated fairly.
Were you surprised that the decision was 7-2? I was kind of surprised that it was that lopsided.
Watching the body language of Justice Kagan and Justice Breyer and Justice Kennedy, I thought that we had a legitimate shot to get them. I didn't think we would get them on the broad issue of the free speech claim, but the religious freedom issues seemed to be intriguing to them, and so I wasn't totally surprised. And this is the second time in a row that Justice Kagan has voted with religious freedom advocates. In the Trinity Lutheran case involving discrimination against a church preschool, she voted in favor of religious freedom as well.
Michael, it would seem that some of these justices might be making an application that if Jack Phillips can be basically sanctioned because he didn't want to use his artistic ability to do something that was offensive to him based on his religious convictions, then would it mean that a person could go into a Jewish delicatessen, tell the owner, I want you to do my wedding reception, and I'd like for the appetizer to be bacon-wrapped shrimp?
To the extent that there was evidence of religious bias in the application of such a case, that Jewish delicatessen owner would win under Jack's precedent. But if they had taken a more even-handed approach in both the way they treated him and in deciding similar cases similarly, then we would be faced with the free speech issues that the court didn't decide this time. And so we got a victory on one component, and we have other issues we're going to have to deal with in Baronel Stutzman's case or perhaps some other cases down the road.
Michael, a case like this could not have happened were it not for organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom. Jack Phillips could have never paid the legal expenses to fight this. He would have been crushed, put out of business. I think it points out how important it is that people who believe in religious liberty support organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom, because without those organizations basically guys like Jack Phillips just get run over.
Well, that's exactly right. The ACLU recently raised over $80 million on a particular weekend because they were railing against President Trump on some issue, and the big money liberals gave them a lot of money. That's more than the annual budget by a long shot for Alliance Defending Freedom. And so we need people to stand with us and to stand up to the ACLU. So I appreciate you pointing this out, and I want to thank those that have given to us in the past.
Michael, thank you, and thanks to ADF for the outstanding job, a great court victory.
Thank you, Mike.
And congratulations to Jack Phillips and the Alliance Defending Freedom legal team for fighting to end and preserving the right of religious freedom for this artist in Baker. But the battle for religious freedom is only beginning. Let me encourage you to learn more from Alliance Defending Freedom at adflegal.org. And also visit Jack Phillips at masterpiececakes.com. But let me warn you, they're still not taking orders for any wedding cakes. At least not yet.